everyone, welcome to Summer of Fun 2! The resummering. Electric Boogaloo. It has literally been 500 years in the making. And now
I don't think that's right.
That's not true at all, no.
Hark! Is that my trusty squire's sheep I spot?
Hi.
And lo! 'Tis Halldamir the Impish.
Fuck you.
And do my eyes deceive me? Is that Tine the Fair?
Aww. Yes, it is.
This sounds like an IQ, like a QI intro.
And last but not least, Manaki the Haggard.
Hello.
Yes, it is time to do something, and what we're gonna do? Well, we're gonna play a summer campaign. I haven't done this in a bit. I didn't do anything last year, I think, but this year we're gonna. And what we're gonna play? Well, we're gonna play 5th edition, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. None of us have any interaction with this before, and I thought to myself, this needs to sort of change because we are, as a role-playing enthusiast, I would be remiss not to engage with D&D 5th edition, the grandfather of all role-playing, so to speak.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, Summer of Fun was 4th edition, so clearly the second one has to be something higher, so 5th edition, and then the third one would be 6th edition.
Maybe.
I think the point is not to make
If
a
they
6th
do.
edition, isn't it?
I don't.
I don't know.
Again, this is not called. Maybe they'll make D&D 1 next.
The Dungeons and Dragons, it's going to be called.
Yeah.
It's going to
And
be good.
Summer of Fun was my first foray into tabletops, and this will be my last. I'm kidding.
That's right. Because we're going to shoot sheep after this.
Gonna make him into a woolly jumper.
You made my heart skip a beat there, sheep, though.
I know.
I know.
Don't
Oh,
you,
now I feel
make
bad.
fun.
Don't do
Yeah,
this
don't make
to
fun of that
us.
sheep.
God fucking
No,
damn it.
We would cry rivers.
I was not the only one who felt that, was it?
No, I did. I was like, is he being serious? Like,
Oh.
is this
No.
sheep?
I'm going away to live in Nigeria.
Some shocking news, even in the first 10 minutes.
God.
Turns out lasers work better in Nigeria than in Germany.
Let me read to you here and to the viewers the intro to this thing we're doing here. And I'm going to read it as good as I can. I don't have as good of a narrative voice as Manaki has, but I'll try. Okay. Life is indeed hard in the Forgotten Realms, and along the Sword Coast it can be downright lethal, with tribes of raiding orcs, wild beasts, and mysterious long-lost ruins. It is a place of much savagery, danger, and adventure. Great cities such as Baldur's Gate, Waterdeep, and Neverwinter act as beacons of civilization in this wild land, but their reach is often limited to the immediate areas surrounding themselves, and often people living outside these old bastions have to fend for themselves. This has generally fostered a hard and self-sufficient folk who value their freedom and take pride in their defiance against the bandits, beasts, and others that seek to interfere with their daily lives. In such a land, it is not unusual with orphans, children whose parents succumbed to a bandit attack, got taken by beasts, or simply vanished searching for some rumored pile of forgotten gold. Some of these urchins are lucky enough to be taken in by relatives or some other kind-hearted soul. You are part of one such diverse orphan family. You have spent most of your young life within the town of Leylon's relative safety, under the tutelage of the cleric and former adventurer Gundren Rockseeker. Acting as your foster father, the stern dwarf has raised you on 1,000 tales of heroes and monsters, lovers and infidels, battles and tragedies. Also, possessing an unerring eye for potential, he has trained each of you to the best of his ability so that you in the future, when you decide to set out and find your destiny, you are equipped to do so, as he simply put it. A week ago, an old friend of your foster father named Sildar Hallwinter arrived to everyone's surprise. Sildar, who was a towering warrior, but with a friendly disposition, spoke in private with your father, and after a long discussion, the two of them left town for a few days, telling you only, "There is something we have to check." After returning from the mysterious expedition, Gundren has been growing distant of you, as if some grave matter weighs heavily on his heart. You have asked about his concerns as gently as possible, but your queries have been in vain. Your sole comfort is the knowledge that he is a wise man, and you know he will tell you when the time is right. Yesterday, Gundren appeared with grim determination written all over his face, and he uncharacteristically interrupted your chores in the middle of the day, imparted hurried instructions for you to equip yourself for travel. He has handed you what gold he can spare and given you an order that you on the morrow escort a wagon with supplies to a small frontier town named Phandalin, while Gundren and Sildar ride ahead to attend business there. And so, you find yourself on an unplanned and unexpected journey heading north, several days into the untamed wilderness. So, I think at this point on the road, the wild road into the wildlands surrounding Neverwinter, it is time to introduce some of the player characters. So why don't we go clockwise here and start with Tine?
My character is Zimri. He's a bard urchin. He can be really right in your face, and also, and he has a pet mouse called Burglar. He's the team's bard. He uses a bagpipe for battle, a flute for when, he's using a flute when it's just around the campfire like that. Yeah, I think that's it. Unless there's more you want to know.
I mean, if you think that is an adequate presentation of your character, then that's it.
Yeah,
Then we'll go next. Sheep.
Clockwise, right. My character is Forin Leyland. He is, first of all, a Dragonborn, so kind of half-dragon-ish, because who's surprised? I mean, come on. He is a bit different, not only because he's not a human or an elf or looks anything close to that, he also has a bit of a different way of thinking, often coming to logical conclusions that to him are absolutely logical, but to others maybe not so. Initially, the townsfolk might have been somewhat intimidated or just not really considered him to be part of the community. But eventually they did grow to like him, especially after he managed to get the local noble to revoke a very annoying law. The noble, thinking to himself that he wants more productive peasants so he can get more tax, limited the alcohol. So Forin, being the law-abiding citizen that he is, said, well, we have to get rid of our excess alcohol storages now. I guess we should just drink all of it. The peasants, or rather the people of town, agreed with that very much. They were grumpy and all that and needed to vent, and alcohol helps with that. And so they did, and eventually later in the evening, Forin also suggested that since the noble is undoubtedly such a law-abiding and fair ruler about them all, he of course has to answer to the same laws, meaning that he too has to get rid of all his alcohol storage that is now just wasted, really, and left over. So he got basically half the town to march to that noble, somehow get their way into the noble's house, and drink half the alcohol storage. Until the noble decided that this law really is a bad idea. There was no bloodshed, no peasant rebellion, but it might as well have been one. The people of the town were very happy about that, and ever since then, Forin was a symbol of the people, and he certainly enjoyed that role very much. He's always happy to help, although sometimes he takes things a bit too far. Like hunting rats, he will make sure that every single one is gone forever. which might involve extreme measures, but he gets the job done. He means well. He means very well. He would never do anything intentionally mean to anyone. But sometimes, yeah. As for... I
What
guess
deity does Forin follow? Being
Oh,
a
right.
paladin.
Forin was, of course, lectured by his adoptive dad, whose name I've never remembered ever,
Gundren Rockseeker.
who, of course, did the best to tell Forin about all the different, Dragonborn culture and whatnot. And despite him maybe not knowing that much, he, of course, would have tried to find something that Forin can believe in. And he has decided that he will follow Bahamut. Bahamut as the king of all good dragons and whatnot. The do-gooder, dragon, I suppose.
Yeah.
And the stories about him have stuck with Forin, and he seeks to emulate that goodness that is Bahamut.
Mm-hmm.
The courage and bravery and always fighting evil. For mechanically, he is a paladin.
Yes. I have a question. This is also a question for the other religious character that we have in the group. We'll come to that. But does Thorin have any sort of holy symbol or other dressings that would identify him as a paladin of Bahamut?
He would, I think, both have a holy symbol, like a almost said self-made one that resembles the symbol of Bahamut.
Maybe
whatever
made in the smithy?
that might be. Perhaps made by himself even, because he does work at the smithy. He is probably one of the worst smiths alive. But he knows the theory. He's just not very good at actually doing it.
It's all the fine motor skills of...
Yeah, it's not exactly his thing. Maybe he did make a holy symbol. Maybe he even made it himself, and it looks good enough.
Mm-hmm.
He would also have the symbol kind of on the scale mail he is wearing currently.
All right. Well, thank you, Sheep. We move on to Manaki.
Yes, and here we have Rivar. He is and has always been a rather shy person. He's never really liked attention. Whenever it was his birthday, he would be conspicuously absent as to not really be in the center of everything. Whenever his siblings were sort of talking loudly as such, he would just sort of slip out the door and just sort of not be around. He doesn't like the very loud. He doesn't like big social gatherings. And he most certainly, feels very awkward about being the center of attention. There was one time where he did something cool. He found something someone had lost, like a cat or something, and they wanted him in the little town to sort of celebrate that for the young boy to have done something. And it was the worst time of his life, being set up on a stage and asked to say something, and he hated it, and he still dreams about it, and it was the worst in the world. So that really sort of drove him out of the house a little bit. He always loved stories about adventure, and he just and he basically went out to play in the forest. That he was a big adventurer and such, and it was that he was fighting monsters, just like Dwarf Dad said, and eventually out there in the forest, he found something that has really sort of almost changed his way of being, and that was a big green dragon scale that he found in the forest. First, he just thought it was big lizard scale or something from the swamp. There are big lizards in the swamp. But when Dwarf Dad saw it, he sort of put on his little monocle and then studied it and said, "Yes, this is a dragon scale, definitely green dragon. Very lucky to have found it." And that really sort of ignited his lust for adventure and wandering. That there was these things out there, a being so big that this scale that could basically cover his entire back was out there, and he's never seen it. He's only ever seen animals, maybe a lizardman, and then he ran far away home. This was amazing to him, and he just cannot wait to go out there and find more and see more. There's so much out there. This was basically the beginning of him not being home very much in his sort of early mid-teens, being very much a wanderer. He traveled out into the forest for days on end. his foster father really recognizing this and beginning to basically accept it instead of keeping him home, training him to teach him what is needed to live out by himself in the wild. He's good at hunting. He can sneak around. He's good at being perceptive and keeping his eyes about him. And he really thrives in the wilderness compared to sort of the city and where there's a lot of people, which he again doesn't really like. So he just began being out there for days and sometimes even a week. He would always come home though, because even if he has sort of the dream sitting out there thinking I could just take my backpack and I could just walk into the horizon and see where my feet take me. And he does have the drive to do that. He still feels a connection to his siblings, sort of, foster siblings and foster father, because, well, I mean, they're his family, and they're the only ones he ever had. They took him in when he was too young to remember, really, and he really wants to go explore the world and become something and do something and have something. He's tired of this tiny village. He's tired of the lands immediately surrounding it. He's explored that part of the forest. He's explored that part of the swamp, and he just wants more. He wants to see more. He wants to be amazed. But his family's always kind of, I mean, he can't just leave them. So this really, like this whole opportunity to go somewhere, and if it's something happening, he's pretty excited about it, though he tries to hide it because Dwarf Dad seems a bit, sort of serious about everything.
But
inside, he's like super stoked.
Yeah, he was like he was the earliest up that morning.
Yeah, definitely. And he's been ready, and he's packed his stuff 3 days in advance. Just because he always like has his backpack packed and such. He usually travels light, but he's definitely, I guess like. Socially slightly awkward, he has slight anxiety probably, but loves just the wilderness and exploring and has a real drive for wanderlust. He just needs to see things. Life is change, and he needs some soon, because if nothing had happened for another year or two, he would probably not be able to keep himself from just being gone one day. He would never really say this to the others, though. He's afraid of what they would think. Yeah.
And mechanically, you're playing a human rogue, correctly?
Yes, I am. Human rogue.
Got it. Then we move to Halldamir.
Okay. Naivara Halldamir is a relatively young wood elf. I say relatively because she's very young for an elf, but only like sort of young for everyone else. Her skin always looks like lightly tanned, sort of a copperish hue. She has dark hair and brown eyes, and very beautiful, and she knows it almost too well. She strives for the self-perfection of the deity she follows as a cleric, which is Lathander. She's almost arrogant with her looks, and it's possibly why the elves in the village or town still call her by a child's name, even though she definitely thinks she's an adult and is all grown up and everything. She's always the first to come to the aid of anyone who is hurt, and will always try and help when adopted dad is fixing everybody, or not fixing them, and she does it. She doesn't tend to wear her armor a lot, apart from when she practices, and when she practices she's in chainmail. But when she's not practicing, or in future case actually fighting, she just walks around in very light clothing, and she seems to fade in really easily with the background on a very on a rainy day. She can be quite hard to see, maybe even only Rivar being the only one to be able to notice her sometimes. Like most elves that you guys have probably heard of, she only really She doesn't really sleep. She sort of goes into a sort of trance for about 4 hours, and she feels just as bright and bushy-tailed as you guys do after 8. She trains with a very elegant longsword, and yeah, that's about it.
And mechanically, you are a wood elf cleric.
Yes.
Okay.
I forgot one thing.
Yes.
Zimri has this old ancient elven arrow in his quiver that he has never used it, and whenever someone asks him about it, it's a new story every time. So it's like one day I came out of the woods, and then this huge tree just sprouted out of the earth, and then an arrow hit it. This is the arrow.
And all the girls in the village sort of roll their eyes at this point. They're like, oh.
Well, he's just like, I'm not gonna tell you how I found this awesome arrow. One day my mouse came back with this arrow in its mouth.
It's a strong mouse.
Yeah.
With all his might, he dragged it.
But I have this awesome arrow. But it's always a new story.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
Okay. Well, you have been on the trail for a couple of days now. You have followed the high road towards Neverwinter for 2 days, and then this morning, after camping along the road, you have veered off east on the Tribor Trail, which is basically exactly that. Yes, Forin always follows the high road. The Tribor Trail is not much more than basically just a wagon trail. There is not really, like, on the high road, there is usually signs or like road posts or something like that pointing like, oh, the next inn within so-and-so miles. Nothing like this on the Tribor Trail. You definitely get the feeling here that you're sort of leaving the thin strip of civilization behind and striking out into something much more wild here. The weather is so far fairly nice. It has been sunny most of the time, and since you are basically in the middle of spring, the air is fairly crisp, and there's a lot of buzzing of insects and birds and stuff returning from the winter around. All in all, you've had probably a pretty good time out here, and it has been actually quite peaceful as well. You haven't really met anyone else along this trail, and so it is. You have a wagon. It is pulled by 2 oxen, and I think, Sheep, you said you wanted one of them, or you have actually bought one of the oxen, right? So you have one of the oxen, and I assume then that you're also driving the wagon.
Yes.
Okay. When looked in, the wagon seems to be loaded with assortment of mining supplies and food. You've seen things like sacks of flour, shovels, picks, crowbars, lanterns, a barrel of oil, and some other like foodstuffs and things in the wagon. Definitely a lot of supplies. And you certainly haven't gone hungry from like eating from the supplies of the wagon, although not the best fare. It is certainly not bad. So about 3.5 days into the journey here, what are your characters thinking, and what are you doing as you traverse the Tribor Trail here?
Well, Rivar is pretty stoked. He's probably been like following the high road some distance up and going to the coast and having a look and been around, but I don't think he's ever been to Thandalin, and he certainly has never been sort of sent on a quest like this. He's keeping basically an eye out, like looking around at nature, listening somewhat from maybe like a little distance. You know, he'd probably like walk a little bit in the in the edge of the tree line, looking around, listening to what his siblings might be talking about and whatnot. To not show that he's so excited, because then they might ask him why, and if he's not worried about something or whatnot. So he's just sort of doing what he usually does when he travels out here on his own, sort of just, looking at the world and everything around him, and feeling like this is going to be just great.
Okay.
In Forin's case, he would, on the one hand, be annoyed at his own excitement, because obviously it's a stupid thing to be looking forward to danger. You should be looking forward to fighting evil, but this is just like forest with maybe animals, and they really can't be evil, so that's not great. On the other hand, he suspects that this might be maybe the start of that destiny that his adoptive dad has been talking about. On the other hand, he figured that destiny should be slightly more subtle than his dad telling him to go somewhere, so he really isn't sure what to think about this whole deal. But maybe it'll be great, or maybe it'll be boring. Right now it's mostly boring. So,
Naivara's probably doing the same thing as Rivar, just every now and again wandering off from the wagon, walking about, coming back, just keeping an eye out, maybe just sitting around and complaining that it's taking forever to get anywhere because of a stupid wagon. And that clearly we should have more awesome things, but Dad never buys anything nice. So, yeah.
He's a thrifty old man.
Oh. Zimri is sitting in the next. I don't know if Forin is sitting on the front of the wagon.
Yeah, he would be directing the two oxen.
Oh, so Zimri will shotgun. Just sit and whistle and enjoying being somewhere else, because Zimri has only been in the city he was born in his whole life, and with the dwarf. So he doesn't know much about anywhere else, but he does know a lot about the city he met the dwarf, his foster father, in.
Mm-hmm.
But he's excited, and he's actually enjoying the moments where there's just relaxing and no bad stuff is happening. It's nice.
Okay.